I promised last night I would go ahead and recount what happened this afternoon in Concord at the hearing for a marijuana decriminalization bill. Now, the 2 times I've been to the State House, I've just felt like it's been a waste. I've just felt like it's been a waste of time. And I go because I like the activists and I want to support them in what they're doing. I like the people that are...
It sure would be great if the bills that are getting heard would get passed.
It sure would be. And, to that extent, I'm willing to help out on this issue. I'm not going to go... we live an hour away from Concord. I'm not enough of a political animal to go up every single bill that has some level of interest in me.
If there were 300 people there in support of this bill today, that might have made some kind of difference, right?
Yeah, there was probably only 30. But they were mostly our people. There were, in fact, only 2 people there that were testifying against this decrim bill. And as I said before, it was the New Hampshire Attorney General, one of her people, and the New Hampshire Chiefs of Police, the head of the Chiefs of Police.
People being paid to be there, not...
Pretty much, yeah.
Whose jobs are going to be dramatically affected and likely... as far as they're concerned, for the worst.
Yeah, and you can bet that the people who were there in support of this bill were not being paid to be there.
Exactly.
in any way.
In fact, many of them were Free State Project members, people that had moved to New Hampshire in order to get active for liberty, and so it's great to see the Free Staters doing exactly what they came here to do, and that is get active, both in the political arena and outside of the political arena. So in this case, I could have stayed home, and I'm sure many of the people that were there would have made similar points I would have made had I testified in favor of the bill. But I testified against the bill, and I testified against the bill on behalf of New Hampshire organized crime. Now, this is actually something that I came up with last year. They were hearing a similar piece of legislation, and I just sort of came up with it on the spot. What would happen if one of our people, one of the people that's in favor of re-legalizing marijuana and other drugs, took the side of the prohibitionists? What would happen if we, I don't know, there's a term for this, where you are essentially, I don't know if it's it's not really being devil's advocate necessarily, but it's creating a character. I created a character for myself. I was representing this fictitious organization called New Hampshire Organized Crime because there are very clear groups that benefit from Prohibition. Cops benefit from Prohibition in that they get money from the federal government, and they've got this vice squad, and they get to take money from people in cars and homes via asset forfeiture. Clearly, the government benefits by getting more people into the system. The prison system benefits by filling more jail cells, giving them an excuse to build more jails. So we know that the state government benefits and the federal government benefits. But what about the gangsters? What about the drug dealers? What about the high-level organized crime, the criminals that are behind bringing these drugs to marketplace? We never hear from them. They never show up to these hearings to testify. So I figured we would create that. And so I got up there, and this only took about 60 seconds. I'm here to speak on behalf of New Hampshire organized crime. This is what I said this afternoon. Clearly, this legislation is a first step toward ending government prohibition, and that would be a mistake. Thanks to Prohibition, drug dealers can sell products with quality control ranging from satisfactory to downright dangerous. In many cases, we're able to defraud our customers, and our victims have no way to get justice, as black market transactions have no place in your government courts. That, combined with the risk created by government prohibition, allows our unnecessarily large network of middlemen and even our street dealers to make profits in the thousands of percents. Make no mistake. If you eventually end prohibition and drugs end up in the hands of New Hampshire businessmen instead of criminals, quality and safety of product will increase and profits will drop to the low double digits. Please don't listen to these crazy liberty people. Prohibition and the black market it creates provides tremendous profits for New Hampshire organized crime. For those of you voting no on this legislation, I would like to thank you on behalf of all of New Hampshire's criminals. You're keeping us in business.
And it's really true. I've talked to drug dealers who have said, I do not want marijuana or any other drugs to become legal because that would put me out of business.
Yep.
And
well, not necessarily. They could go legit. It's just it'd
be
much more difficult for them.
And most of them aren't. I mean, people who the big guys who find themselves involved in drug dealings are usually people who will go switch to some other sort of crime anyways.
You think so?
I think that a lot of the people who are involved in crime, we'll just switch to something else that's a black market substance.
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, but there's only so many other black market substances.
And we advocate legalizing the vast majority of them.
Right, because if you re-legalize all drugs, then they can only really get involved in gambling, gun running, and prostitution. I mean, there aren't too many other prohibited products.
Well, you got to legalize all the drugs.
That's true. So I got that. I read that, and it got some laughs, and I think it broke up some of the seriousness of the occasion, and I think it made the point that it was supposed to make. And there was some great testimony by Brad Jardis. He is the only member of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition who is an active street cop. The only one of their 5,000 members. He's the only one who's actually active.
That takes guts.
He's an awesome, very brave young man. In fact, I say young man, he's a little older than me. But compared to many of the cops, he's still a young guy. And he's really put his career on the line because he's gotten threats. The chiefs of police last year, they called to have his boss fire him after he testified in favor of the bill last year. And this year, he managed to be the last person to go, which was nice. So the guy from the chiefs of police got up and read off his propaganda and just his, the typical cliched nonsense we always hear about. Marijuana's more potent than it ever was in the past, and all the.
Was this the guy, the chief of police of Bo? Was the guy from Bo?
No, he was the head of the chiefs of police. I don't know which.
That's who it was the last time.
I don't know which chief he was, but he's the head of the whole organization. And so Brad, our man from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, got to go last, and he really wrapped it up well. In addition, this time around, again, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, you can go to their website, leap.cc. If you're a law enforcement officer, highly recommend you take a look into them. Even if not, you can still join their organization. They're a great group. But they keep expanding. Law enforcement officers keep finding the organization, they keep learning about it, and they keep joining. And so this time out, we had a different LEAP member. And this guy's also active, but he's not a cop on the streets. He's the warden. He's the superintendent of the Cheshire County prison system.
Oh, that's great.
So that's actually where we happen to live in New Hampshire. And so this guy got up there, and he's been in the criminal justice system for his whole life. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, talk about a man with credibility to these people, these elected representatives. He knocked it out of the park.
That's great.
If this bill doesn't pass, I
think he has a lot of hope, too.
Is going to happen. More on the way. You can take control of the airwaves. Bring up whatever's on your mind. This is your show.